Professor A. On the role of fraud in nature. Are we not all predatory animals by instinct? If humans ceased wholly from preying upon each other, could they continue to exist? Anton Shonderleby. Nature, to be commanded must be obeyed. Organisms typically base their success primarily on deception and rely on actual force or mutually advantage. Thus trade symbiosis has little as possible. This should be nearly self-evident, but is generally overlooked due to the moral codes we elitists foist on our subjects. Let me give a few examples in case the moral culture has to some extent impaired your powers of objective observation. Camouflage is universal among predators and victims alike. Blossoms imitate fragrances and colors which are sexually attractive to Francis Bacon. Certain insects in order to effect pollination. Dogs bark arrows. Usually and feign attack on enemies of whom they are, in fact, terrified. The Venus flytrap plant lures flies to their deaths. Men proclaim their altruism to others and even themselves while they selfishly scramble for personal advantage. If you doubt that fraud is normal in nature, you should read section 3 of the first chapter of Robert Ardrey's The Social Contract for a wealth of fascinating examples. Of course Ardrey fails to grasp the full application to contemporary human society of his brilliant insights into man's animal nature. Human mental prowess and communicative powers have merely provided superb elaboration on nature's old theme of fraud and added its own distinctive feature, self-delusion. Primitive animal hierarchies are based on bluff and bluster, and each member is well aware of and accepts, at least temporarily, its position in the hierarchy. The same wild enthusiasm and fascination for dominance and submission rages in human hearts. However, fraud is taken one step further. Not only is fraudulent bluff and bluster used to achieve dominance, but fraudulent altruism and collective institutions are used to conceal dominance once achieved. Human hierarchies, in contrast to the animal variety, are best sustained when the members are deluded regarding the oppressive nature, or better, even the very existence of the hierarchy. Visible rulers are highly vulnerable. Thus we see visible rulers claiming to be representatives of God, the common good, the material forces of history. The general will either through vote or intuition, tradition, or other intellectual spooks that serve to lessen the envy of the ruled for the rulers. Encouraging such self-delusions among the masses of the ruled is universal for visible governments. However, such spooks are little protection for the leaders of such systems against their sophisticated elite rivals, and no protection against men like your father. The Roman Empire was unquestioned by the mass of its subjects for centuries, but the emperors lived in constant fear of coup and assassination. By embracing deception wholeheartedly at every level, finance capitalism, or rule through money, has fashioned the ultimate system yet devised for the secured exercise of power. Men like your father, the hidden masters of finance capitalism, govern those who govern, produce, and think through invisible financial tentacles, the operations of which will be elucidated later by my colleagues. Dominance in all aspects of society is surreptitiously accomplished while the great majority of the ruled, and even most of the visible leaders, believe themselves to be fairly autonomous. If harried members of a pluralistic society, nearly everyone believes major decisions to be the bare sum of autonomous pressures exerted by business, labor, government, consumption, social classes, and other special interests. In fact, the vectors of societal power are carefully balanced by us so that any net movement is in the direction chosen by us. The only flight in the ointment is the occasional, but extremely messy, interferences by competing financial dynasties. This disconcerting problem will not be a major topic for this weekend. I now yield to Professor Q, who will elucidate the central secrets of your father's immense money power. *******. Professor Q on occult knowledge as the key to power. The theory of aggregate production, which is the point of the following book, nevertheless can be much easier adapted to the conditions of a totalitarian state than the theory of production and distribution of a given production put forth under conditions of free competition. John Maynard Keynes. Forward to the German edition of the General Theory. September 7, 1936. Throughout history, secure ruling elites arise through Southeast crept, or occult knowledge which they carefully guard and withhold from outsiders. The power of such elites or cults diminishes as their occult knowledge is transformed into scientific knowledge and vanishes as soon as it becomes common sense. Before analyzing the secrets of the finance capitalist money cult, let us glance for historical perspective at occult astronomy, the oldest source of stable rule known to man, of which astrology is the pathetic remnant. As soon as men abandoned the life of wandering tribal hunters to till the soil, they needed to predict the seasons. Such knowledge was required in order to know when to plant, when to expect floods in fertile valleys, when to expect rainy seasons, and so on. Months of back-breaking work wasted by the unavailability of the calendar, a convenience we take for granted. The men who first studied and grasped the regularities of sun, moon, and stars that presaged the seasons had a valuable commodity to sell, and they milked it to the fullest at the expense of their credulous fellow men. The occult priesthoods of early astronomers and mathematicians, such as the designers of Stonehenge, convinced their subjects that they alone had contact with the gods, and thus they alone could assure the return of planting seasons and weather favorable to bountiful harvests. The staging, predicting of solar and lunar eclipses was particularly effective in awing the community. The general success resulting from following the priesthoods' tilling, planting, nurturing, and harvesting timetables ensured the priesthoods' power. Today's Christmas holiday season continues the tradition set by ancient priesthoods, who conducted rituals on the winter solstice to reverse the retreat of the sun from the sky. Their invariable success was followed by wild celebrations. Popular knowledge of seasonal regularities was discouraged by every manner of mysticism and outlandish ritual imaginable. Failures in prediction were blamed on sins of the people and used to justify intensified oppression. For centuries, people who had literally no idea of the number of days between seasons and couldn't count anyway, cheerfully gave up a portion of their harvests, as well as their most beautiful daughters, to their faithful servants in the priesthoods. The power of our finance capitalist money cult rests on a similar secret knowledge, primarily in the field of economics. Our power is weakened by real advances in economic science. Fortunately, the public at large and most revolutionaries remain totally ignorant of economics. However, we established money lords have been able to prolong and even reverse our decline by systematically corrupting economic science with fallacious and spurious doctrines. Through our power in the universities, publishing, and mass media, we have been able to reward the sincere professorial cracks, whose spurious doctrines happen to rationalize in terms of common good the government-supported institutions, laws, and economic measures upon which our money powers depend. Keynesianism is the highest form of phony economics yet developed to our benefit. The highly centralized mixed economy resulting from the policies advocated by Lord Keynes for promoting prosperity has all the characteristics required to make our rule invulnerable to our twin nemeses: real private competition in the economic arena and real democratic process in the political arena. Laissez-faire or free market Classical economics was our original attempt to corrupt economic science. Its beautiful internal consistency blinded economists for many years to the fact that it had virtually nothing to do with current reality. However, we are so powerful today that it is no longer possible to conceal our imposing institutions with the appearances of free competition. Keynesianism rationalizes this omnipotent state, which we require, while retaining the privileges of private property on which our power ultimately rests. Although the interim reforms advocated by Marx in his Communist Manifesto, such as central banking, income tax, and other centralizing measures, can be corrupted to coincide exactly with our requirements, we no longer allow Marxist movements major power in developed countries. Our coercive institutions are already in place. Any real steps toward communism would mean our downfall. Of course, phony Marxism is an excellent ideological veil in which to cloak our puppet dictators in underdeveloped areas. Secondarily, the power of the lords of money rests on an occult knowledge in the area of politics and history. We have quite successfully corrupted these sciences. Although many people are familiar with our secrets through such books as 1984 by the disillusioned George Orwell, few take them seriously and usually dismiss such ideas as paranoia. Since real politics is motivated by individual self-interest, history is